What's up, world? Writing blogs and articles is a fantastic way of driving traffic to your e-commerce business. But it's also time consuming and there can be pitfalls if you don't actually capitalize on the traffic that you get onto those pages. In this video, you'll figure out how you can turn your blog posts into conversion machines. On the agenda today, we're going to talk about why blogs and articles are so important for e-commerce businesses. We'll talk about the biggest problem with driving traffic to these pages and how you can solve this problem through the power of automation. So first of all, why are blogs so important? Well, first of all, we have to realize how users normally search on Google. There's usually a lot of different ways that we can interact with search functions. Some of them might be searching directly for products like I need new blue shoes, but in a lot of cases, we as consumers actually tend to search for questions that we want an answer to. So that could be like, how do I change a diaper as I'm a new father or similar? I am not yet. Or it could be something like, how do I change the tires on my new Toyota? All of these things are not really related to a specific product necessarily, but related to an answer that you want to get as a consumer. But of course, that answer will often involve your products. By writing blogs and articles, you can generate a lot of traffic from search engines to your website when consumers search for these questions and other things that you know about because of the vertical that you're in and because of the products that you sell. Another great thing about doing this is that you position yourself as an expert in your field, which can actually lead to customers wanting to stay on your webshop and continuously come back because they know that you know what you're talking about. Now, there is a pretty big pitfall with doing this though, which brings us into the biggest problem with leading traffic to your blog pages, and that is not capitalizing on the fact that the users are there. I've seen a lot of web shops that write fantastic content, really interesting content that I go to and I read through, but nowhere in that article is there a call to action or anything that leads me to actually go and buy the products that would solve my problem. For example, I remember reading about the best covers and the best battery packs for my new OnePlus phone. And I was reading through that article, seeing a lot of examples of things that would actually be the right solution for my new phone, but without any way of going to buy that product from the webshop I was on. The problem with not having a call to action like this is that you'll generate a lot of traffic that's going to come to the blog posts. They're going to read about it and then go back to Google and buy the products from somewhere else. Some webshops do actually manually add recommendations to the blog post, which is a bit better because that way you can actually click on the products and then buy it directly from the same webshop that wrote the article. However, there's a huge problem with doing this manually. First of all, if you have a lot of blog posts and you have to manually figure out what products you want to sell from each of them, that in itself is a very time-consuming task. But there's also a different problem, which is that when you manually add products, they will rot over time because your catalog changes all the time. Sometimes your products go out of stock, sometimes after a year, new products are actually more interesting for this subject and so on. And after all, the blogs and articles will stay there for a long time, years and years on end, because they'll continue being incredibly popular. And after all, your blogs and articles are going to keep on being on Google for years and years on end, so consumers will continuously find them and go to the pages. And if you show an out-of-stock product, then you've wasted that space. It's also important to keep in mind that when you write blogs and articles, it's going to take a while before they start showing up on Google. It can take 3 to 4 months. So if your products are already out of stock after the 4 months, then you've still just wasted space and you will just get the bounce. So how do you solve this in a better way? Well, luckily, there is a better way through the power of automation. Now I'm going to show you how we handle it in Clerk, where we just let you insert one simple embed code that is then always going to stay up to date with whatever products match every single one of your blog posts. Let's dig into it. So here I have my Clerk.io backend open, and I also have my Shopify backend, which is the example I'm going to use for today. And then lastly, I have my blog posts on this Shopify account, so you can see what it's going to look like. Now, first of all, the way we handle it in Clerk is through the use of what's called content. A content is just a type of recommendation that has a specific logic. And in this case, we're going to talk about two logics: keyword recommendations and blog recommendations. So let's take one of these that's called blog article. The logic here is set to recommendations based on keywords. This is the simple way of getting recommendations into your site, which allows you to basically just choose a keyword that you want to show recommendations based on. Now, a keyword could be the title of the blog post, or it could be like more manual. If you want to just show gloves, then you can also just type in the keyword like that. It depends on how much control you want to have over the blogs. If we start simple, let's just take the embed code down here and copy it into our Shopify setup. So there's basically two ways that you can do this. Either you can take the embed code and add it directly to each of the blogs that you have, so you can fully control exactly where it's going to be inserted in the blog. That's a bit more time consuming. Or you can choose to do it in the template file that generates all of your blogs, which means that you can show the related products in the bottom of every single blog that you write without having to spend any more time on it. I would normally recommend the second approach because it means that you just have to do this work once and then it just works forever. But it's up to you. I'm going to show you both approaches. So first of all, if we take the approach of adding it directly to a blog post, you would find the blog where you want to add your recommendations and then insert this simple embed code through HTML. So in Shopify, the way it works is that you simply click on Show HTML and then you have access to inserting it wherever you want. So if we try to find some place within like after a paragraph like this, we can try and insert it there. And I'm just going to copy the embed code and insert it right here. Now, as you can see, there's something called insert keywords here, which we need to replace, of course, with whatever keywords we want. In this case, this article is about gloves, so I'm just going to be writing gloves. And then we're going to save. So now when we go to our how to pick the right gloves article here, we are going to be able to find our recommendations down here. And you can see that I just wrote gloves and Clerk just finds what the best gloves is at this moment in time. Now, the cool thing with this is if we visit this blog in say 3 months, then since this is completely dynamic, Clerk will only show the products that are actually in stock and are the most relevant at the time where you read this article. Now, of course, the better way of doing this to make it fully automatic is to insert it within the template that we have. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So let's start by removing this so we don't have two of them, of course. And then I'm just going to save. And then in Shopify, you would usually do it within your template files in edit code here. Now, the blog's articles are called main article in Shopify, so I'm going to choose that particular one. And the important thing when inserting embed codes like this is, of course, to find out where the best placement is. In order to make it work for as many articles as possible, I normally recommend to insert it either somewhere in the middle or somewhere in the bottom. Depending on your system, it might be easiest to insert it in the bottom, which is still much better than nothing. So I'm just going to refresh the page here. So you can see that now the recommendations are removed. And now we just need to find out where to insert the embed code. In Shopify, the way it works is that all of the article's content is found in a single variable inside the file here, which we can see here. So we want to insert the recommendations within the same container, because that way we know that it's going to have the same margin and padding and so on from the page. So I'm just going to copy paste it within here. Now, since we are inserting it in a template, now it doesn't really make sense for us to write gloves, for example, because then it would always show glove recommendations, which is not really what we want. Instead, we want to make it dynamic. So if you want to use keyword recommendations, then the best way of doing this would actually be to add the title of your blog post. In Shopify, that would be something like article.title, which would then always insert the title of this blog post. There is a better way of doing it though, because we also have a different type of recommendations which are more intelligent than just keywords. And that is this logic that I'm going to show you here. Products related to a page. This uses a completely dynamic algorithm to figure out what the blog is about and then recommend the very best products based on that. And it only requires the ID of the blog. So if we start by saving this, now we can see that we need a slightly different embed code, which I'm going to be inserting instead here. And now to make it fully dynamic, we need to insert the ID of the page. I know that in Shopify, this is called article.id. It might be slightly different in your webshop platform, but the concept is the same. So then we save. And now in the bottom of the blog post, we'll have the best matching products for gloves. And this is always going to stay up to date. The cool thing about inserting it in a template like this, as I said, is that now these products are just going to be shown for every single blog post that you add, regardless of what you're writing about. So you never have to think about it again. And every time a new consumer or a new user comes into your blog to read about gloves or diapers or whatever you're writing about, they're going to see the best products that they can buy from your webshop, and thus you've capitalized on your blog post. And that's actually how simple it is to start automating your life and getting much more conversions from your blog posts. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Bye-bye.